Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Productivity Mastery, episode 199. 199, man. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. Super, super happy to be here with my guest. Somebody I'm honored and privileged to call a friend. Somebody that inspires me on a daily, on a weekly basis. A really good friend, but also somebody that I always go to for business advice, for personal advice. Um, Angel Ivanov is a managing partner at Handplayed, a high-end video production agency, creative studio operating from Sofia, Bulgaria. He's also the co-founder of Skapto, Skapto Burgers, one of the one of the best burgers in Bulgaria franchise that he's been building now for several years. Great burgers. I actually had a burger today. I can confirm great burgers. He's a
Nice.
serial entrepreneur. He does a lot of different things, and I'm very excited today to learn from him as a former movie producer myself. To learn what makes him productive, what makes him able to navigate many different business endeavors at the same time. Angel, great to have you, brother. How are you today?
I'm great, Stoyan. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on this show, and what a milestone, man! 199. I heard the news that you're gonna be the guest on the next episode, so that's gonna
That's
be
right,
interesting.
man.
Who is interviewing?
So we're gonna have Katie Stoddard, she was the guest at episode number one in
Nice,
2020. So we're going to turn the stage, and I'm going to be the guest on this episode, which is happening next Friday. I need to check exactly what time was it, but it's in the afternoon, Friday, next Friday. So let's see what she has for me. But probably we're going
nice.
to reflect a little bit more on the learnings from all these 200 episodes, all the guests, all the best insights, the crazy stories. So
Amazing, man.
appreciate
Yeah,
it, man. Appreciate it.
I'm
Hey,
glad.
episode is 199 though, and I want to feature and focus this episode on you, Angel, because I think all of us can learn a lot from you. And why don't you start with telling us a little bit about the story? How come a person is at the same time being a video producer, a movie producer, and being an owner of a burger franchise?
Well, it was not by choice. It was so it happened. It was in 2013. I had graduated from university in 2012, and I was working for a production company. But a friend of mine from university, we met one night, and we reminiscent over our years at school and how cool it was and how it's never going to come back, but we can do something to kind of try and preserve the community. And yeah, we opened a bar which was supposed to be for AUBGers, so from people who graduated from the American University in Bulgaria. The university itself is in Blagoevgrad, but most of the people after they graduate move to Sofia for work and for professional opportunities. So we thought that it could be a place for these people where they could gather, catch up over beers, and discuss ideas, potential collaborations, and so on. And uh, with time, it grew into a burger franchise because we noticed that every time we had a burger on the menu, it was a best-selling item. So there was obviously a lot of demand for premium burgers, we thought. And also because even though it was great in the beginning for AUBGers, we quickly realized that people don't go to the same place that often. They want to go to different places. And it was hard to turn it into the club that we intended to in the beginning. And by focusing on burgers, it started to become more popular outside of this initial niche audience of people who graduated from our university. And it became a famous restaurant for its burgers, which gave us the ambition to try and grow it into something bigger. It's been a very difficult journey, but a really interesting one. And I think that I've learned more from this than any business school could teach. A lot of practical things that couldn't even come to your mind if you try to study them.
Yeah,
So it's really, yeah,
and I can see, man, because for the audience, me and Angel, we are both squash buddies, so we play a lot of squash together, and we share different stories, and often like on the breaks, that's my favorite part, right? Like we're playing squash, we're competitive, but when we have breaks, we're sharing struggles, business challenges, and every week you have a new one, man. It's like
yeah, yeah,
it's incredible the amount of crazy stories that you share with me coming from the specifically for the from the burger franchise, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. It's very different from my production job. So I was part of a production company. This is kind of my expertise. Has always been in film production. And although I had studied business, I was definitely not prepared for what was to come when I founded a restaurant and then tried to grow it. We currently have 11 locations, um, 10 in Sofia, one in Plovdiv. It's hard to. It's an industry that's constantly struggling with staffing. There is not enough people. There is not enough quality people to put on managerial positions. So it's a lot of care. It needs a lot of care, and if you don't care for it for even a short period of time, it can, yeah, deteriorate in quality really quickly. So it
Yeah.
needs a lot of
So far,
presence.
so far, you guys are going is doing great. I mean, I ate the burger today, so I can say the quality is good there, but I can understand
Nice.
the struggles.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like for another kind of a fact for the audience, the way we met was actually we met in Strasbourg. Was it Strasbourg, Angel?
Yeah. Yeah. It was Strasbourg, and I think it was maybe the same year. Maybe it was 2013. So I still didn't have the bar, I think, because it was called Nisi Masa, and it was young filmmakers conference for people across Europe. This year it was happening in Strasbourg, so there was a lot of lectures, learnings, but also networking for young filmmakers. Some of them had gone there with a film. Others, like us, were there just to learn. And I was, yeah, probably the youngest producer in the company that I was working at, called Chuchkov Brothers. They had just completed their most successful film, Tilt, at this time, and we were working on new films, but I was also developing short films on the side, and it was an interesting experience for me to see how other people were doing it. And at some point, I was in this big hall, listening to someone talking on stage, and this was actually you. And I figured by the way you speak that you're probably Bulgarian, because we have this distinctive accent that it's hard to get away with. Yeah, I came to the stage. I remember then that I couldn't see the stage. I didn't have glasses yet, and it was in this period that I was figuring out that I need glasses, so I couldn't see from afar, but I could hear. And I came to the stage, and I was like, "Are you Bulgarian?" You were like, "Yeah." This was the beginning of this story,
This is
but
one of
since then,
ours, man. This is one of
yeah,
ours.
yes. But since then, we've done a lot of interesting things together. I've participated in some of your really interesting initiatives, and I'm grateful for this.
Yeah, we're running a private business network event every month, Copenhagen Business Mornings, which is another kind of great initiative. And I'm grateful to be doing that with you, brother. Tell me about the movie production. And I mean, both of us, when we met, we were movie producers, and that was my dream, my career as well. I'm doing completely different thing right now, but I think for the audience who probably never been on a movie production, can you give us an idea what does a producer do? What is your job on a film set?
So the things that we need to do are different on film set and on commercial sets. So if we're shooting a commercial, it's slightly different. When we're shooting a film or producing a film, it's slightly different because shooting is like the most intense part of the film production, but it's definitely the shortest, and it's a lot of like most of the time some films need close to 10 years to get made, and only 1 month in these 10 years is the shooting. So the rest of the time is as you know, pre-production or development. The first stage is development, then it's pre-production, then you go into the shooting, and then there is post-production, which can also take a lot of time, especially for longer films. But what the producer essentially does is that he's the primary force that's responsible to take this project through these stages. There is no one else who is responsible for the completion of this project. It's the sole responsibility of the producer. And to get through these stages, at first he needs to develop the idea. So this is where the script is being conceptualized. You're coming up with the concept, basically what you see on the in the background here. We're trying to develop a documentary film at the moment, so we're going through the main characters, through potential story structures, to the archive that we can use, and so on. And this is the development stage. The development stage is completed when the script is completed. So pretty much with the script, you know what the film is going to be about. And this is when you can finally make a budget, because without having a script, it's really hard to know how much it's going to cost. Without knowing scene by scene what you're going to need, it's very difficult to make an assumption about how much money you need. So when you complete the script, you can finally say this is going to cost us 100,000, 200, 500 million to make. Currently, Gundi, the film that's currently running in cinemas, is the highest budget for a Bulgarian film, at least in the last 32 years, because in communist times we didn't know how much the budgets of the films were. But at 4 million, a little bit above 4 million Bulgarian leva, this is the highest budget for Bulgarian film. Most of our films cost about 1 million if they're fiction, and about 300 to 500,000 if they're documentaries, although they're good examples for documentaries that are completed on a much smaller budget. And once you have the budget, then the hardest part is actually to raise the budget, to find the financing for this movie. And there's several approaches that you can take, but in Europe, it's mostly through governmental or public funds. So you apply to the cultural programs in your country, in your municipalities. So in Bulgaria, there's 2 funds that are supposed to sponsor Bulgarian films. And there is also the TV stations that also have some financing for original Bulgarian content. So you start to knock on these doors and to show them the script, to show them the project, to try and show that there is a entertainment value in it, that there is an emotional value in it, and that people are going to want to watch this. And if you succeed, they chip in with some amount. So usually a film needs a few partners to gather the financing. This is why most often currently in Europe, the European reality is such that we make co-productions. So once we go through all the funds in Bulgaria, we find a Romanian producer and he starts to do the same in Romania. And then we find the Serbian producer and he starts to do the same in Serbia. And then the film is a co-production between several countries, because the film funds in these countries contributed with some financing for the budget. And of course, you can get some private money as well. In the US, most of the films are made on private money. They don't have a subsidized system as we do in Europe. But again, in the US, it's much more likely that you're going to make money on your film. So it's a good business investment. While in Europe, it's a little bit harder. The countries have their own languages, smaller populations. So it's rarely that the film from a country like Bulgaria makes profit. Usually the case is not that you're going to make profit, but at least you have not invested your money. You've invested a lot of time and a lot of work to try and gather different funds, different public funds that go into the production, and then you hope that in distribution, which is the last part after you've completed the film, after you've shot it and done the post-production, in distribution, which is basically showing it to as many people as possible, you're going to make some money to pay back your time and energy that you've spent on this.
I see. How many full-length fiction, also short films and documentaries have you personally been a part of producing?
So in development at Chuchku Brothers, this was already like 12 years ago. In development, we had at least 6 or 7 full feature films. All of them were fiction. In the 3 years that I spent with the company, I didn't go on a production set at all. As I said, usually it takes close to 10 years for a fiction project to be completed. So this was one of the reasons that I decided to quit the company and start doing freelancing, that I wanted to be on set more. And this is how I got into commercial production as well, because in commercials, usually the time frame is really short. So you basically have something ready in 1 month, from ideation and script to post-produced piece of content, usually a very short piece of content, because commercials are usually 30 seconds. Very rarely they're up to 60 seconds. Now with social media, more and more often they're 6 and 12 seconds. And I wanted this experience of production, and I couldn't get it in the film production company because it was taking so long to find this money. So we were working on 18% Gray, which is a popular Bulgarian novel, and the story happens in the US. And our initial idea and hope was that we're going to shoot it in the US. We had finance from Bulgaria, and we were looking for other financing options. And we could never get close to that budget that we needed for shooting it in the US. It's so expensive there. People are unionized, so you cannot negotiate with them the way we do in Bulgaria. Their rates are fixed. Nothing you can do about it. So in the end, 6 years after I had already left the company, the film came out. It was not a journey through the US, but from London to Berlin, and they had managed to find co-producers in these countries, and this is how the film was made. So it deviated a little bit from the initial storyline, which happens in the US. Tried to keep the same concept, but the journey was happening in Europe, in Western Europe, and it took 10 years again. So in this stage, I worked on several feature films. None of them got made. Then when I started my own freelancing, and then a small production company currently called Handplayed, it took like 6 or 7 years of doing short films. So we had maybe close to 25 short films that we had produced.
But we got short films. We're talking about high quality short films. It's not something you do for a couple of days. It's also a lot of work.
Yeah, well, there were also films that needed financing, so we had to go through the same procedure again. It's just that the number is smaller, but not much has changed. So all of these films were either financed through the Cultural Fund of Bulgaria, or through municipal cultural funds, or from the Bulgarian National Film Center. And some of them were successful. I think the most successful one is by Martin Iliev, called Father Time, which was selected for the Brussels Short Film Festival, which is one of the best film festivals for short films. And because it was at this festival, Canal Plus, the French TV channel, saw it there and bought it. So it's one of the films that made us money, which is very unusual for a short film. But they bought it for Europe, for Africa, and for Asia, and were distributing it on their VOD platform. And every year it's still it still makes some revenue. It still has some viewership and it has some payouts. But yes, close to 25 short films. And then in 2018, I think we started working on our first feature films. One of them is now in post-production. It's called For You. We shot it this year. It has features Yavor Bakharov and Yulian Vergov as the main cast. It's a really interesting story based on a Bulgarian play that was award-winning play by Yana Borisova, and the director is Dimitar Kotsev Shosho. So this film is nearly completed. Then we're working on a few documentaries. We have a film which is pretty much completed about the Bulgarian journalist Milen Cvetkov. It's a really interesting film that I believe is going to attract a lot of attention and a lot of viewers, because the character is really enigmatic and people love him. And he died prematurely in a car crash. And it's a really sad story. And I recently watched the first cut of the film made by our really great team. And it's a really good film. I think the film about Milen Cvetkov is gonna be really successful. The director is Veselin Dimanov, who made the film about Christian Takov. We were also helping him there in the post-production, making the editing with our editor here in the office, and it became one of the most successful Bulgarian documentary films in terms of viewership. So I think it's been everywhere. Bulgarians from all over the world were trying to get the movie and show it to their local communities and so on. Again, because it's such an interesting character, it's such an interesting person, and I think that Milan is going to have the same fate and the same success. And we're also working on this one. Is a space documentary, so it's about the Bulgarian space program, which was really interesting in the 70s, as it was collaborating with both Russia and NASA. So it's an interesting observational point of view, because the Bulgarians were in the middle, but still doing really interesting scientific progress. We had the most advanced lab for space exploration, and basically we were gathering the most useful space data and giving it both to Russia and to NASA until geopolitical tension started building up, and this was the end of the program. So they started arresting some of the science guys and so on. So it's again an interesting documentary we're working on, and now for the first time we're developing a TV series project. It's a sitcom. So I'm really looking forward to this, because I like comedy. It's the hardest genre, comedy, and it's about the Bulgarian post office. The Bulgarian post office services, as probably all of you know, have not changed much in the last 6 years. They still use their notebooks. They write things down on paper. There is no system whatsoever, no digitalization whatsoever. So it's a very funny place to be. And we've developed this script with these funny characters in one of the post office centers in Sofia, where it's just so entertaining to watch them struggle with the old technology, and it's so much fun.
I think everybody in Eastern Europe can resonate and relate to, the postal office, which is still 30 years behind. Look forward to it. How many people right now do you have in the office, like sort of like working from the office at Handplayed?
Since it's not a strict office policy, everyone can come whenever they want to come. Usually it's not many, but
how many people do you have on the
paper? On paper, we have 10 people in the office. Half of them are producers, so they're responsible for their own projects and for completing these projects and for making them happen. The other half is more on the creative side of things, where we have an editor who is also directing his own films. We have another director. We have an animator, motion graphics designer. We have an art director who recently joined, responsible for design, layout, and creative concepts as well. And yeah, and my creative partner Vladi, who is a multi-tool. He is responsible for all kinds of different things.
Right, and then you're hiring people depending on the project. How many projects, just to get an idea? Like, I mean, on the fiction side, on the documentary, I kind of understood, but like when it comes to commercials and product videos, everything to do with customers, which is probably the main part of what you guys do. Like, how many videos? What's the number of videos you have to produce per year?
It's really difficult to say, but I would say that each month we have at least one that's bigger. So a bigger production that involves a lot of people. So a lot of freelancers need to be hired for this project specifically. These freelancers range from the director and the director of photography, the cinematographer, through the heads of departments, as we call them, which are the set design, so production designer, a costume designer, hair and makeup, and then they go through the technical positions, electricians, grips, sound, and so on. So on some of these commercial projects, usually the number of people on set is around 50 to 60. On some of the bigger ones, it could be 100. And those people are there for a day or two of shooting, very high budget, because when you have 100 people on set, some of them are great experts in what they're doing. The fees are high. The stakes are very high because the client is paying a lot of money to get a short piece of content that's as polished as possible. And I think at least one a month of these bigger ones. And then we work on small projects constantly. So social media, as I said, we're not good at native content. So we don't work with influencers or with creators directly. Our expertise is more in the higher production value content, where you basically need these heads of departments to come together, sit on the table, and figure out the best way the script is going to be executed. And every now and then we also get invited to creative pitches, which means that the client comes without a script and they want us to come up with the script. So this is something that we didn't offer as a service probably until COVID, a little bit before COVID. And then more and more clients started coming to us without the creative idea, and they wanted us to work on this. So we've kind of expanded our expertise in this direction as well. And this is why, from a production first team, we now have probably an even distribution between production and creative people in the office to be able to work on such briefs. Then it's hard for me to give a number, but pretty much I would
Right.
say one big one a month, and then maybe 10 to 20 small ones.
And as a producer, as a managing partner at Handplayed, how do you decide what to focus on? Today you are on the Productivity Mastery podcast. We want to learn from you. There's so many different things you have to focus on. Like, I would imagine at least several, maybe dozens of different projects that are, you're in charge of. Like, you have to run the team, you have to take care of administration, there's so many things going on. How do you decide? Do you have any kind of a process of, that's how I'm going to organize my week? What do you do?
We do have a kind of a process of week organization. In the beginning of each week, we have a Trello board where we upload our tasks for the weekend. we try to prioritize them and start with the most important ones, and then towards the bottom of the list it's the less important ones, so that you can start from the ones that really matter. um, I would say that it's I'm struggling a bit with the prioritization, mostly because uh, trying to combine both things with the production and the restaurants. I do get busy a lot with small things that I cannot delegate, or there's no one to delegate them to, or there are things that only I can do, and I'm in this stage where I'm trying to figure out some of this. So yeah, we do have these weekly boards that help a lot. They give me a sense of who is working on what the progress is on these tasks, so that I don't need to go check with them, or to nudge them, or to check progress and so on. And basically, the rest of the time, I try to figure out what's the most important thing I need to do next. Uh, as I said, sometimes I try to concentrate on the most important thing, and the phone doesn't stop ringing with different fires that are burning in different restaurants and so on. So it's a bit difficult, I would say. But yeah, sorry, go
First of
ahead.
all, thanks for being super honest, man, and I think you're a little bit humble because from the outside it looks like you're doing really great. I mean, I've been close to you for several years now, specifically the last 2 3 years. We've been spending quite a bit of time together, and I gotta say you're doing great, man. I think you're probably too tough on yourself because I mean I come from the movie sector, man. Like many people probably can relate from different industries, but this is a sector in which there's many things you cannot anticipate and predict. No matter
Mm,
how much you plan the next day, the next week, there's many unpredicted challenges that will come out.
yeah,
Combine that with the restaurants and all the unpredicted challenges and hiccups and daily things. I think you're doing great, man, from the outside.
thank you. Thank you. No, it's to be honest, it's most of the hiccups come from the restaurants. It's most of the unexpected things come from the restaurants. In the production business, I think we're already a really well-oiled machine. In the close to, yeah, it's going to be 10 years next year since we started Handplayed, and we pretty much don't have employees that have left. We're pretty much the same team. Every now and then we're adding a
Amazing.
new team member. Yeah, so on the production side, I think it's pretty much um, figured out. So there's rarely something that's going to surprise us a lot. Now, of course, there are some situations where we try to anticipate what's going to happen. For example, with the film about Milan Cvetkov, we've currently put together a teaser that we're going to share in the following days. And this film, it's about censorship, and this guy was censored in on national TV, and he was censored on private TV channels. And in this teaser, we're opening this topic, so opening the Pandora box, and we don't know how the channels are going to react, and we basically need them afterwards, because the footage that we're using in the film is from them, because it's his shows, his news anchoring, he's interviewing guests and so on, and this is basically their archive, so it's their material. And now in this teaser that we're going to run, there is some small blaming on their part, that they have censored him, and it's the main conflict in the film. But now we're just teasing a little bit towards the end of the teaser, just to show people what the idea is going to be. But we still don't have the contract from the TV stations that they're giving us the archive. And now we're not sure when we run this teaser whether they're still going to be on board. We hope that they're going to be, because this is the true story. We're not changing anything, and we don't have our own narration. It's different famous people in the film that say this. So it's not our words, it's people that we've interviewed sharing their perspective. But yeah, we're hoping that there's not going to be a political reaction or something like this. And this is something that you cannot anticipate. We don't know
But
what's going to
this
happen.
is this is the this is the life of a movie producer, of a video
Yeah.
producer. Right? Like you navigate through so much uncertainty, and again, to you today, it probably is a lot more normal because you've built the muscle over the years. But maybe if you can reflect a little bit and share with the audience some advice on that. How do you keep yourself with a cool head? And I don't know how much actually you're on set these days because you have a big team and you're probably just showing up to support and more advisory as opposed to being operational. But let's bring you back to the years that you've been more down on set, and you have to deal with all the, I don't know, the camera break, something happens, right? Like how do you manage mentally this uncertainty and challenges that are happening?
Well, I think just it's kind of an emotional, yeah, it's kind of an emotional response. I think I'm just distanced enough from the things that are happening, or at least I'm trying to be. There have been cases in which productions have gone so bad uh, that I couldn't keep my composure and I couldn't keep my calm. But it has happened only once or twice, um, and it was again because things that could not have been anticipated happened one after the other after the other. So, as people call them, they turn into shit shows. This is the slang for this in our industry, and in most of the other cases, pretty much trying to keep distance from the problem. You need to make a decision, and you're the one who is supposed to make the decision. Everyone is waiting for you to make the decision. So there's nowhere you can hide. So, for example, we've had a case where we're starting to shoot a film, and in the first scene, the actors are supposed to lay down on the grass, and it's supposed to be sunny, and it's supposed to be a beautiful moment. But when we're there with the whole crew, all of a sudden, a cloud appears from somewhere and it starts raining. And the director gets really panicked. So he says, "No, we need to cancel the shoot. This is not how it was supposed to be. But we've already spent the money. Everyone is already there. We cannot tell them, go back home. You're not getting paid for today." And since it's a lot of money, it's a big decision that you need to take on the spot. And I had no idea what's going to happen. Is it going to stop raining soon or not? And the director was asking to cancel, and I was like, let's give it 30 minutes. If it doesn't stop raining, let's discuss again. 30 minutes later, the cloud disappeared, the sun started shining. We had the most beautiful shots because the grass was wet, and it was luckily the right decision. But it's hard to know sometimes. It's hard to know.
Can you tell me some other production stories, man? Like maybe, you know, situations that went really south, like, productions that you couldn't anticipate, but and what did you do? What happened?
Well, I think the one that I'm sharing the most is a music video that we serviced for Sigrid. She's a famous, I think, Swedish singer. She's very young. Everything was going wrong on this production. Really, her flight caught on fire on her way to Sofia, so she landed in Budapest. They made an emergency landing in Budapest. She couldn't even come. She didn't arrive for her own shooting. But it was a very difficult production, and it was up in the mountains where you're basically it's hard to it's much harder to get services up in the mountains if something happens. So one of the days we needed to move one big platform from next to a lake, and there's no one you can call in the top of the Riva Mountains to move this platform. So we needed to find the nearest village that has a person, that has a tractor, that's willing to come pull took this platform next to the lake.
So what you start calling, like knocking on people's doors and like,
Yes, basically yes.
anybody
I
has a
can,
tractor?
yeah. Then on the next day, we were supposed to have permit to shoot there, but since it's in the mountains, you don't even know what the borders are of your permit. And we were in a place where supposedly, obviously, we didn't have a permit. So mountain rangers came and they were like, "You cannot shoot here. You don't have a document," and so on. And we were like, "But we have a permit." But they said, "No, this is down the road there. The minute you cross this road, you're not allowed to shoot here," and stuff like this. So they chased us away from there, wasting us a lot of time, needing to find a new location. It's happening on set with British producers, British famous director, clients from 2 different countries, and so on. So this was a very humbling production. But one other case that I can share is from.
But just to ask you, how did that one end? Like, what happened in the end? Like, you guys
So in
managed?
the end, the director played the singer in the video. So he was like, "I'm gonna act as if she was here, and we're gonna shoot it anyway." So we were shooting him instead of her. There was supposed to be shot of her walking on water. So we had built this underwater platform where she could walk on it. It was a big construction. I think it was 5 meters deep in the water until we made the scaffolding underneath so that there can be a platform on top that's so transparent that you don't see it. So basically, she's walking on water. But the problem was that when we built it, we didn't realize that the level of the water is changing every day. So we built it, fit perfectly on the top of the water. Next day we go there, it's already 15 centimeters underwater. So you need to rebuild it basically, and it's already the day of shooting. So we started rebuilding it, barely managed. So the director starts walking on it and it starts falling apart around him. Everything was so decadent. And then a drone is shooting him on a platform in the lake, playing the piano. The drone is making circles around him. And the director of photography says, "I want the drone to go lower, lower, lower." And at some point, there is this air pressure close to the water of the lake that sucked in the drone. It was like 3 meters away from the water, but the change in pressure of air pressure and air motion sucked in the drone. So we lost all the material from these shots. We lost the drone. It's somewhere in the middle of the lake in Belmeken. And yeah, all of these things happened one after the other. So in the end, what the director did was an edit that showed how these things fucked up one after the other. So it's a little bit of behind the scenes video of what the actual video was supposed to be, and it became pretty viral. It was a staff pick on Vimeo.
What's the name of the song?
Mine Right Now. Mine Right Now.
Mine Right Now. We're gonna post it in the comments, guys.
Yeah, watch it. It's fun.
Amazing. And you said another one. There's another story.
There's another interesting story. It was a commercial for a phone company, and they wanted us to find an old couple in the mountains again, in the Rudopis. So all of the problems with productions happen in the mountains. But no, we were traveling through the Rudopis, again, knocking on doors, trying to find an old couple that's willing to get a device, a tablet device from this phone production company. And we were going to have a photographer, a very good photographer, the same one who lost his drone with us on the other shoot, was going to travel around Bulgaria. Vladi Treziski, he has one of the best photos of Bulgaria as a whole and of different Bulgarian locations. So he was going to shoot films and images and send them on this tablet device to this old couple so that they can discover Bulgaria together with him. So we were looking for such a couple in the Rhodopis that hadn't traveled a lot. So they hadn't seen a lot of Bulgaria, and we were going to show it to them and how beautiful it is. And basically, they just need to confirm that they're willing to let us shoot them for a few days. So we went there, we found a great couple, we come back to Sofia, we show the couple to the client and the agency, and they were like, great, we're working with them. I call them to confirm, and I say, thank you, they selected you on Friday. We're coming with our team, and we're gonna stay in the village for a few days. And every day for 1 or 2 hours, we're gonna come to your place and we're gonna shoot you while Vlad is sending you a video or a photo from a different Bulgarian place, a beautiful Bulgarian place, and we just want to shoot your reactions. And the guy, he's probably 75, 80 years old. He was like, great, I'm looking forward to it. I have rakia ready for you when you come here. It's gonna be great. We get there on Friday morning. There is a police car in front of his home, and the police starts checking our luggage, equipment, and so on. And basically, what happened was when this person that I had called, this grandpa, told his son about the story, about how we're going to go there and shoot them, and we're going to pay them. It was a good compensation. And his son was like, there is no way that these are not scammers. And they're coming to probably rob you to get everything that you have in your house, every last cash penny that you have under the mattress. And they didn't let us in. And this is Vladislav Terziski and another film crew are already traveling in Bulgaria to start shooting these things, and we don't have the couple on the first day of the shooting of a 5 days shoot. We don't have the main cast, and again, it was again Vladi, my creative partner, then who started knocking on doors in this village, in the next village, in the next village, and at the end of the day,
really, he just went like nuts, huh?
Yes. And at the end of the day, he found another couple that was willing to let us in. It was easier because they were already seeing the equipment, the people that they're gonna let in their home. Not normal looking guys, not someone who is on the phone telling you how he's gonna come to your place and shoot you. So in the end, it was a great film. But
I've seen that one. It's actually really nice.
Yes,
And
yes.
those of you who are watching us on LinkedIn or listening to the podcast, we'll put the links in the comments so you can watch these two videos as well. But I really like this one, man. It's very genuine and nice.
Yes. It was very nice. In the end, the couple was really great. They were really impressed by the photos and the videos that they were seeing, and it turned out great. But the day that we realized that we need to find a new couple was really tense. The client and the agency were like, "But you have signed a contract that you're gonna make this," and I was like, "Yes." Sometimes things don't go as planned. Thankfully, by the end of the
And I
day,
think
we had.
many people don't understand, man. Everything is on the shoulder of the producer.
Yeah.
Something like this breaks, you have immense pressure from the client, from whatever partners, from everybody. Like maybe there's a bunch of people already hired to do stuff, and the payroll is going right, and you still have to fix it, and that's kind of my, like, what's your advice for people in such professions like that? Things are changing so fast. Like, what do you do when, as they say, shit hits the fan?
Mm-hmm. Oh, what do you do? Well, as I said, you try to distance yourself as much as possible from the problem and try to find a
Do you
solution.
for example, like, kind of isolate yourself, close your eyes a little bit? Like, do you have any kind of a specific, tricks and hacks that work for you that you can share?
I think that I would personally try and discuss it with someone. In this moment, me and our head of production were in the office while the two film crews were in different sides of parts of Bulgaria. They had production people with them as well. but we were all trying to communicate and discuss what the best possible solution to this would be. We started calling numbers. So if we knew, since I'm from Asenograd, which is not far away from the Rudopis, we started calling relatives if they know someone that might be willing to participate and so on. So basically, it's a lot of knocking on doors, but I would say that that it goes through a discussion with someone you trust. In my case,
Yeah, I can totally relate, man. That the first step is kind of to cool down a little bit, and when you talk to somebody, you get a sense of perspective.
yeah.
It's not that bad. It's normal, but the best thing you can do. We had a interesting guest on the podcast. He's been a guest twice. Winston Clemens. He said, "You ask yourself the question." That was his kind of a little mental trigger. He asked himself the question, "What is the best next step? Like,
Yeah,
what's the best next step?" Yes, there's 12 things burning, but what's the best next step? And then you
mm,
focus your entire attention on fixing the problem. In your case, that could be finding a new couple or
yeah,
whatever it is. But identify what the problem is and what's the first step. Let me focus all my entire mental energy to fix that. And sometimes there might be several steps, right? I need to call the client. I need to make sure these people are not doing anything. I need to tell the photographer, like, right? These are the 10 fires I need to cool down before I get into actually resolving the problem. Communication, because
yeah,
then everybody's being communicated. They're on hold. Okay, I win 1 hour in which I can actually do stuff. And but really important to cool yourself down. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you panic, and this is why I said in the beginning that it's a little bit of a personal thing as well. It's emotional intelligence. Of course, you can train it, but some people are just born with it. And all of our producers here are good producers because they're really emotionally intelligent, so they don't panic when things go wrong or where they start to um, incline towards going wrong. Because once you panic, you're already it gets worse. And in this case that I mentioned, the client saying, "But you signed the contract," and so on. This is them panicking. So it doesn't contribute at all to finding a solution. But since they're accountable to their own bosses and they don't want to share the bad news with them, uh, they start venting to you, and it wasn't helpful. But at the same time, like, I understand it, and the good thing is that our producers are pretty stable, and if you're not like sure that you can handle stress, maybe like such positions are not for you.
being an entrepreneur is not for you. Being a producer is not for you. In our latest book, which I was fortunate enough to feature you and Handplayed as well with a great example. Our latest book called "Perform in Times of Crisis." I'm quoting a research study. It's actually not a research, but it's kind of the findings of a psychologist who says that in a crisis, 80 to 90% of people will act inappropriately
Mm,
based on his 20, 30 years of observing and researching in the field. 80 to 90% of people act inappropriately in a crisis.
yeah,
And I think it's a good thing to know, because most people will panic. Most
yeah.
people will get shocked. There was this story. I don't know if you read the whole book now, even though I gave you a signed copy. I know some people read it like 2 years
pretty,
later.
Pretty much I've halved it. Yes, I'm halfway through.
I don't know if you remember the example from the Detroit the airplane example. So 2017, there's this plane that lands in Detroit, and one of the engines is caught fire.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And pretty much what they do, the stewardess start getting on the microphone. Everybody, we need to evacuate the plane. No panic. Leave your luggage behind. Slowly, calmly leave the plane. Everything is fine. What do you think happens? Well, obviously people start panicking.
Yeah.
Everybody starts rushing around, grabbing luggages, pushing each other. Some people grab their phones, start making selfie. selfie videos with the engine that's on fire. Like
Yeah.
they can literally die, man. But that's what
Mm.
we do, humans. We are not rational creatures. And this is why people like yourself are extremely important and sometimes are not getting enough credit. Because people like you, these are the people that will be the stable ground when there is a crisis, when there is a challenge. And we need people like you, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Excellent, brother.
I,
There's a few more minutes. There's a few more minutes left, and I just want to ask you, kind of to wrap up the whole thing. What are some of your best productivity tips? And it could range from anything when it comes to personal productivity, doing sports, planning, organizing, some sort of interesting habits. Like what helps you to be at the top of your game?
hmm. It's hard to say. Definitely, having my prioritized to-do list in the beginning of each week is very important for me. Sports definitely very important for me. It's you can feel it when you're doing it. How much of this bad energy that you've gathered through the working days just evaporates through your body. And definitely, yeah, if I don't do sports 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel down. And definitely it's very important for my everyday um, productivity. But apart from this, um, finding time to read books such as yours. This was very like mind opening, eye opening when I read Naval's book. You know what I'm talking about. I forgot the
Which
name
one?
of the book at the moment.
Which one? Naval Ravikant?
Yes, yes. So basically, he says, don't be enslaved by books. Don't try to finish them or like don't feel any pressure to read them in sequence or so on. So since then, I'm reading a lot more books because I'm basically not trying to. Um, not I can read a page from this book and a page from 10 other books in one day, and I find this really helpful. And sometimes, yeah, such as your book, I can open towards the end of the book and it's still fine. I read something that corresponds to something that's happening to me at the moment, so it gives me a very valuable perspective, and it's much more learning than trying to read this book and finish it and so on. So I try to read. I use ChatGPT a lot. It's very helpful.
What do you use it for?
Basically, again, discussion perspective. So like a trusted companion to whom you can share struggles and get some perspective. And it's really interesting because he's read a lot of books, so he can give you interesting recommendations that you didn't think of. And I use it mostly for business cases. So if something happens, what would you suggest we could do in this situation? Uh, what we can do to get the maximum out of this opportunity and so on. And this is, yeah, it's very useful. I use it more and more. What else? A lot of paper notes. So my table is covered in paper, and I use a pen, and I try to get everything down on paper. And the most important things, I try to get them on the whiteboard. So a lot of writing with to handwriting.
Get things out of your head. Make
Yeah,
sense of them.
drawing as well. Yeah, I mean drawing. Sometimes some of the ideas are easier drawn than written.
Just to wrap up the whole thing with maybe a final question, Angel. Looking at many of the listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs, students, people who want to go places. Maybe they started their first company. What's your sort of like message to the up and coming leaders, entrepreneurs that are just starting on their journey with entrepreneurship?
Hmm. Hmm. I'm reading a book at the moment called it's by David Baker, and I think it was called "The Expertise of an Expert" or something of this kind. It basically says that people who try to turn their passion into work are usually unsuccessful. So he says that work is work and passion is passion, and you cannot put them together. Um, but I'm still not convinced by his argument. I think that for me, working in Handplayed is really, um, I haven't struggled with motivation ever in these 10 years because it's such a passionate journey. I really love the films, I love the ideas. And being able to make a living with your passion, I think, is very motivational. Some entrepreneurs think differently, so they see a problem and they want to fix it, and this is great. We need more people like this. It really depends on the industry and the sector and what you're interested in. But in my case, I would say to keep your motivation in the long run, because entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's a very long game. Try and do something that you really care about, you're really interested in, you're passionate about, and you're sure that 10 years from now, when you look back, you're not going to consider it a waste of time and chasing someone else's dream. And yeah, figuring out that you could have done something that you love, and now it's a little bit later, is something that I hope less people will do.
If you feel, at least do it on your terms, right? I mean, I totally resonate, man. Just wake up in the morning when you do the thing that you're excited about, like the vision, the mission, the projects. You go through the harder days easier. Like you
Mm.
wake up and you can't wait to do it. Even the boring things, administration, accounting, you kind of find the purpose because you know why you do it. That's a great advice, man. Angel, it was so great to having you, brother. Just final message. Where could people find you, connect with you, get in touch if they need any video, any commercial for their businesses?
So our website is handplayed.to. This is where we show most of our work. You can also find us on Vimeo, vimeo.com/handplayed. We upload many of our projects there as well. Our mail is mine, at least, is angel@handplayed.co. So if you want to see more examples of a specific thing that we're not uploading to our platforms, you can always get in touch. For example, these days a lot of people are contacting us for YouTube videos, and we have not uploaded our YouTube portfolio on our website. We're keeping mostly the TVCs and the bigger projects on our website, but more and more clients are now looking for smaller things, as we're turning into this content first generation where everyone needs to pump out content all the time. So yeah, if you want to see more examples from things that you cannot find online for us, we'll always get in touch. Find me on LinkedIn, Angel Ivanov, burger and a camera for ease.
That's it, man. Thank you so much, Angel, and thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us. I just want to remind everybody, first of all, if you enjoyed this episode, go share with a friend, share it on your wall. Give us 5-star review on any of the platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It really helps us to bring incredible people like Angel. And I just want to remind everybody once again, episode 199, meaning next week we have a jubilee. That's right. On Friday, we're going to have episode 200, in which I'm going to be the guest, and our first ever guest from episode number one, Katie Stoddard, the fellow productivity consultant, leadership consultant, is going to interview me, and we're going to have a little bit of a celebration. There'll be some surprises, so make sure to tune in. It's going to be Friday, 29th of November, from 3:45 p.m. Central European times. So that's going to be the live. Of course, we're going to repost the recording, but we'd love to have a lot of you guys joining us live on LinkedIn. Join the party, ask some questions, contribute to the discussion. It's going to be a party. So thanks everyone for being with us. Close to 200 episodes now. It's been a pleasure. Angel, once again, thanks, brother. I'm proud of you, and I keep on getting inspired by what you do. Thanks for being with us, and see you guys
Thank
once
you so
again
much, buddy.
next week on Friday. Ciao.
Ciao.